Welcome back to episode 5 of World in Flames. I'm just going to jump right into it basically here. If you'd like a recap on what happened during the 4th turn, which was the March-April turn, go ahead and take a look at the last few minutes of episode 4. I'm basically going to jump right in here. One note though, I am going to replace the Belgian Congo and the Netherlands East Indies units that I took off the board at the end of I think it was the 2nd turn, when the Netherlands and Belgium were conquered. So after looking at some comments, it looks like those are units of the minor country, Belgian Congo and Netherlands East Indies, and not of Belgium and the Netherlands themselves, so they should not have been destroyed when the parent minor countries were conquered. So I've put them back. Got the one here and then one over in Netherlands East Indies. I've just replaced them. Okay, so in the lending phase, I'm going to do a little bit more lending. The Commonwealth is going to give China 2 resources through the Burma Road, because now I realize that is useful because those factories are cut off from the resources within the rest of China. The U.S. is going to give France their normal 1 resource and 1 oil just to give them a bit of resources. And I'm also going to give Italy 2 resources from Germany. Italy really had very few build points last time, so I'm just going to try to help them out a little bit with 2 resources there. So we will move on to rolling for initiative. So the Allies had the initiative last time. They began and ended the turn with an Allied impulse. So we moved at the end of last turn. I moved it over to the left one. So I'll go ahead and roll for initiative, and again, red will be the Allies. So Allies get 3, and the Axis gets 6, based on the modifier. So it'll be Axis initiative, and the Axis is going to take the first turn. There's no modifier on the weather from last turn, so we'll just roll a die, get a 3. So a 3 in May and June is okay weather. The Arctic and the monsoon zones have some bad weather, but otherwise in the temperate and Mediterranean, it's fair. Alright, starting with Japan, going to be doing a land action. So all of these, I've already moved some of the units. All of these units here are going to attack this hex. And also these planes were just a little bit off map. They're also going to be supporting as well. So that adds 2 to their combat factor. The 3 hexes here are fighting across a river, but this one is not. So all of that together is a combat modifier of 7.7. So I'll go ahead and roll and see if it's a 7 or an 8. 6. So yep, it'll be a +8. And I rolled 5. So a pretty disappointing result for Japan. That's nothing happens. The only thing that really happens is now all of these units are flipped over. So that was a pretty low roll. They were expecting to do a little bit more than that. That particular hex has proved quite difficult to get into, even though it's surrounded on 4 sides. Yeah, that's all Japan's going to be doing this turn. The weather in the North Monsoon Zone down south is stormy, so it's pretty bad. They're not going to be doing anything down there right now. Alright, on to Germany. So, full disclosure, I already ran through 1 round of this combat, but decided to put everything back because after I had done it, it was riddled with both strategic and rules errors, and I decided it would just be better to just do it again. I'm not planning on doing this often, but there were mistakes with it, and I think it would be better just to, for the purpose of the video, I think it would be better to do it again. So just full disclosure. Germany has already done moves here. They're doing a land action, and what they're going to do is they're going to attack from here and here into this hex right here. They are going to move a few planes, and they're going to move an escorting fighter with them. And I think France is going to let that go without adding any planes to it, because only 1 attack has been declared, which makes France think that there's going to be more in future turns. They've only got the 2 planes here, so I think they're going to save them, either for a retaliatory strike or for a future attack elsewhere. So this combat will be on the Blitz table. There are 3 armor or mechanized units taking part in here. We've got an armor, HQ armor, and a mechanized, and they're attacking here. So it's on the blitz table, and that's going to help with the modifiers as well. So I've already gone through the math, and with these planes, it's going to be plus 9.6. So here's for the fractional modifier. Rolled a 9, so it's just going to be plus 9. And they roll a 10. Okay, so 10 plus 9 is 19. So what we have here is one of the attackers is lost, and I think that will be this unit here. A unit will be lost. The French troops they have breakthrough here, and I will need to figure out exactly what to do with that. I'm going to move these planes back. I know that they will be removed at the moment, and I'll be right back to figure out exactly what to do with them. And of the remaining land units, half of them can stay face up. So there's only 3 remaining, so I will just flip one of them over. Okay, so I flipped this one over here for Germany. So for breakthrough, the 2 French troops that were there get added to the production circle to come out next turn. And then because it was a breakthrough, I can advance the land units here, and I could even go one further if I wanted to. But here's what I'm thinking. If I go here, I could do that. I am still in supply. I can trace supply back this way, I believe. I don't think I can go here because it'd be in the zone of control of enemy units. I could be wrong on that, but I think that's how that is. But if I go here, I'll be surrounded by here, and then these troops could move in, and that would put me in a pretty vulnerable location here. I could go one further, either to here or here, but then they would be out of supply. And I know HQs can provide supply. Yeah, there is HQ emergency supply. There is an HQ here. So if they ended up here, I think that could supply to the other unit there. But here, they're just kind of out away from the rest of their troops, and they could be pretty easily surrounded. So I think what I'm going to do, it's still early in the turn. There should be good weather. So I'm expecting that there will be several more turns in which Germany will get to attack this turn, there should be several more impulses where Germany can attack this turn. And just based on how not so well the last few Axis turns and combats have gone, I think I'm just going to sit here. I think the goal is just going to be to weaken this front line for another turn or two, and then make one big push through. I need to probably do it before the end of the turn, before any of these units that have breakthrough come back onto the board. But interestingly, one of the 2 that I just removed is a Moroccan unit. I'll have to look. It seems like that might have to come back out in Morocco, which will basically put it out of the battlefield here. Again, could be wrong. I'll take a look at that when the time comes. But yeah, so I think Germany's just going to sit here at the moment. And probably try to do the same thing one more turn, maybe try to push units down here. I am going to use an HQ, I think this one here. Yeah, I'm going to use this HQ. I'll look at the rules. I'm going to use this HQ to turn this and this airplane. I'm going to reorganize them at the end of the turn. There's 3 reorg points. It was a land action, so this land unit should just take 1, and the airplane should take 2. I'll verify that and be right back. Yeah, so this will be 1 point, and this will be 2 points of reorganization. I've got 3 points from this HQ, and his range is 3 motorized movement points, so that should be fine. 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2 into that forest there. And once those have flipped over, this will need to flip over as well. All right, and I think that's it for Germany, this impulse. And for Italy, they've chosen the land action. I did one thing out of order here, but it's fine. It didn't affect anything. I went ahead and moved all of the land troops. They're moving over into France. I'm also going to do strategic bombing here on this factory hex with this particular plane. It's got a strategic factor of 2. It'll be +1 to the die roll because it's low altitude. There's no air combats it's fighting this turn. So here we go. Rolled a 9, which upgrades to a 10. So on the strategic bombardment table, that is 1. So that'll be 1 production point that France will lose at the end of the turn. And moving on to the Allied impulse. Okay, so during the declare war phase, the USSR has declared war on Iran. So I've gone ahead and aligned them with Japan, and they've set up their one unit. They have another unit in reserve that can come out during their impulse. All right, so taking a look at China first, they did a land action and just moved troops into the line here. The weather down south was pretty bad, and in the north there's really no great area to attack. This is a possibility, but these don't cooperate, and there is a mountain, there's a river, they are in supply, so it would be pretty difficult, I think, even with the face-down units to do much here. Yeah, those odds are something like 1 to 2, so not too good. So just some repositioning, trying to form up defenses in the mountain area there. France did some moving around. I'm a little timid to do much attacking right now. There are some hexes, especially this one right here, which could certainly be attacked. The issue is Germany has quite a bit of air support that could support this hex. And France would have pretty good odds, but there are rolls that would be pretty bad for France. And based on the way I've been rolling some of the combats recently, I'm a little timid, I'm a little hesitant to do that. So what I did was I moved up a unit from Paris. I think it's under here. Yeah. So I moved up the militia there. I tried to put 2 units in any hex that could be attacked by multiple stacks. And then this one's only got the 1, but there's only 1 stack here that can attack here. I don't know if that's the right call. Yeah, I don't really know. I don't know if that's the best option or not. I don't know if they should be attacking. They probably could take out this unit. You know, the odds are with them here, but there's also a risk of failure there. I think they're going to wait 1 turn and see how Germany responds before doing anything else here. My fear is that if I attack, and I think attacking might be the right decision here, but my fear with that is a poor roll, and that would really open things up for Germany. And then down south, I moved the cavalry that was here into the city to better protect that hex. I'm leaving the Alpine unit here because it's making a zone of control that all of these Italian troops are either going to have to attack that, and it's a mountain unit in a mountain, so it's got a strength of 12 right now. Or if they want to try to take the port here, they're going to have to go 1 more turn to here and around. So they won't be able to get to it this turn. So either Italy is going to have to attack into this hex, which they might do. They have a slight advantage, or they're going to go around. But if Italy goes around, then France can just back in next turn. So I'm not sure what they're going to do there yet, but I think that's probably the best spot for the French troop. For the Commonwealth, they did a naval action, and they just defended all of their convoys that they could, so Bay of Biscay, Cape St. Vincent, some out in Asia as well. So I tried doing something a little different this turn. I have a few carriers. I have a few cruisers here in the 4 box. I have some more in the 1 box. The home fleet here was left over from last time, so there's quite a bit of presence in that box. But I'm thinking I don't need quite as many ships as I used before, and I'd like to keep ships in reserve so that they can respond to actions by the Axis. So I left a sizable force back in the Commonwealth as well as at Gibraltar. So we will see if this is the right call or not. But there are cruisers out here defending different sea boxes. I've put a few out in the North Sea just to be able to spot any German ships coming out. And I've done a similar thing here in Cape St. Vincent. Alright, so the only thing left to do here is the USSR and Iran. So Iran decided to set up their 1 unit here in the mountains. I kept thinking they would set up in the capital, but really I think it's better here. It prevents the USSR units from moving here and then attacking here. The reserve does not come out until the Axis impulse. So had I set this up here, I think the Siberian units would have been able to move here, attack, and then possibly move in and conquer that turn. However, well, they don't conquer until the end of the turn, but it would prevent the reserves from showing up in the capital. However, if I do it here, if I put this troop here, this forces the Siberian unit to go around and attack, and they can move into here this turn, but they won't be able to move into the capital this turn. So the reserve will be able to come out here, and it'll just be a little bit more difficult for the Soviet Union to move in. I still think they'll be able to do it, but I think this is the better way to do this tactically. Having said that, the Soviet Union's got quite a bit of power here. So they're going to all attack into here with ground support. And because it's a surprise impulse, that river here doesn't matter, and these attack factors are doubled. So the combat modifier here is plus 17. They really wanted to make sure that they didn't lose any troops of their own. So rolled a 10, so that plus 17 is off the chart. So this troop is gone, and then the Siberian units will move in. So now next turn, for the Axis, they'll put in their reinforcements here, and if the Soviet Union wants to move in next turn, they'll have to do it with just the Siberian troops. But I am going to use HQ reorganization to flip these planes back over. And I think I did that right. This has a reorg value of 5, and then each of these should cost 2 points to flip over since it was a combined action and not an air action. And with that, that is the end of the Allied turn. I don't recall if I mentioned or not, but for the declaration of war by the Soviet Union on Iran, I did do the U.S. entry check. It did force them to remove a chip from the pool, and so one of them was removed. I'm really not sure what to do with America quite yet. It doesn't seem like there's much to be doing, but that also makes me think that I'm doing it wrong. So they didn't do anything this turn, but we'll see if I can get them involved somehow moving forward. So at the end of the Allied impulse, we move the tracker over for Axis, and we need to do a weather roll. Rolled a 10, and the previous modifier, because it was on a 3, I had 1 to it, so we're at 11. It is fine weather everywhere. Alright, on to Germany. They're doing another land action, and I'm going to do something this impulse I probably should have done last impulse. I'm going to do some ground strike missions. And the idea behind this will be to try to get some of those French troops to flip over, so that they can't counterattack, and so that they're easier to attack in combat. So I moved 4 planes. I got 1 here, 2 here, and 1 here, and I'll go through each of those combats, or missions, I guess. I don't think France is going to use their 1 interceptor to attack any of them. They certainly could, but Germany's got a few interceptors here that they could then send over as well to defend. And I think France would rather keep it as an escort for this fighter, or for this bomber here. That may be the wrong decision. I'm not sure. I think they're going to keep it. If they go up against any of those, they'll be overmatched. So I think I'm going to hold on to this. Again, I don't know that that's the right call, but I think that's what I'm going to do. I think they're going to use it as support for their own bomber instead. All right, so going through each of these, starting up here with this one, I've got a factor of 4 on this plane, and there are 2 units there. So I need 4 or less. So for the top unit, I roll a 5, and for the other unit, I roll a 5. So nothing happens there. For the next one, there's 2 units here. There's a 2 and a 3 on the bomber, and then there's 2 French units there. So the red will be the 2, and the green will be the 3. So here's for the top unit, nothing. And the bottom unit, nothing. And then lastly, for this one here, there's 3 units there, and it's a factor of 2. So, the first one does hit. The next one, no. And then last one is no. So that was pretty disappointing overall, though it does take out the French bomber. Alright, I've gone ahead and rail moved troops. I've moved some of them from here. They're going up around. I've also moved some troops. The ones I had moved to Berlin and Dortmund before, I have railed back because it looks like they're going to be needed here. I've also moved a few units over towards cities over in Poland so that they can rail move back here during the next impulse, because it seems like I need more troops over here on the border because I am probably misplaying Germany right now. So because the theme of this turn so far has been making bad decisions, I'm going to continue that theme, and I'm going to do 2 combats. These 2 hexes are going to attack here, and these 2 hexes are going to attack here. Here we've got 7, 8, a 5, and a 7 versus a 7 and a 5. And then here's a 6, a 7, a 5, and a 6 against a 4 and a 4. So the ones here in this hex are attacking across a river, so they'll be halved. I do have some mechanized, some armor, some HQA around, so both of these battles will be blitzes, and I've already gone ahead and calculated the combat odds. The one up top, I'll start here, we'll do this one, is plus 6.5, and then the one down here is going to be plus 5.6. Alright, so the one up top is plus 6.5, so here's for the fractional odds, 4, so that does move up to plus 7. And they roll I moved a unit here, or an Italian unit with the dice. Rolled an 8, so that's 8 plus 7, that's 15. Okay, so 15 is X1 on the blitz table. So I am not fighting across a city, a mountain, a forest, a jungle, a swamp, across a river, or invading. It's not bad weather. It's just a plain old hex. So Germany doesn't lose anything. France will lose 1. They will choose the 5-3. And because the defender lost more than the attacker, the remaining defender flips face down. And I do need to flip all those German units face down as well. So that wasn't too bad for Germany. They have an HQ here who will reorganize some of those, but I don't think I'm going to be able to reorganize this HQ unless I use offensive points. I'll take a look at that at the end of the impulse to refresh myself on those rules. All right, the other combat down here, here, is plus 5.6, so let's roll for the fractional. Roll 4, so that goes to plus 6, and I rolled a 15. Get that on camera here. 15 plus 6 is 21, so that is breakthrough, and I'll check the rules. I think this gets overrun, and then the land units here get put onto the turn track over here to come out next turn. Yeah, so this aircraft actually gets destroyed. So bombing this earlier in the impulse turns out to actually have been quite handy. Though, actually, let me take that back. This doesn't get destroyed yet. I might not move into that hex. Let me think about that. Okay, I think I'm going to try to be not too aggressive here. I'm not going to move these forward. I know that leaves this plane here. Based on the weather, this turn should have several more impulses, at least one more. And I think what I'm doing here with Germany this turn might be working. They're softening this line. I'd like to maybe use offensive points maybe next time. Maybe, we'll see. I'm not quite sure. But it feels like I can deliver like a big punch here as Germany into the French line maybe as early as next impulse. If I move forward here, that puts the units that I move into this hex in a little bit of a dangerous position with these two stacks here, but even more so, the stack here becomes pretty weak, or even here. I'm just not quite ready to move out. I've got units coming around next turn that can help backfill. And by not moving in, this almost forces France next turn to move some of their units to fill that hole, which will weaken these two locations respectively. So I'm going to hold, I'm going to wait here. Germany is reasonably happy with how this ended up happening. Removed a unit over here, flipped another one over. 2 units here got breakthrough, so they're on the track to come out next turn. Now France does have quite a few troops to come out next turn. So Germany is going to want to do something big here, I think, probably in the next impulse. Alright, yeah, so I don't know if this is a wise use of offensive points, but I'm going to use them to flip this HQ back over. It costs 2 plus its reorg value, so it'll be 2 plus 4 for 6. So I'm using 6 of those. Germany's currently at 19, so they're now at 13. So they'll have enough to still do some kind of action with them next impulse if they want. And then I'm also going to use this HQ, flip him over to provide reorg to 4 other land units because it was a land action. It only cost one reorg point per reorg for land units. So this is how that all ended up. All of Germany's land units here, except for a few over here on the side, they're all face up again. And France is now without some of their land units. And I think next turn, as long as the weather holds, and I think there's about an 80% chance of that happening, as long as the weather holds, I think Germany might go through and use offensive HQ points to increase their land action one more time, which will really give them potency to push through the line. Okay, Italy has just done a little bit more positioning. They're trying to get into position for next turn. I think next impulse they'll be able to launch an attack. They've moved, so they have taken this port here. These are coming along behind, so their objective is to take the port down in the south. And then I've had a string of units come this way and up this way, and they're going to try to go here for Lyon. So Italy does control this hex, but there's no way for them to get that resource back right now to Italy, so I just put the markers here to denote control, but at the moment that doesn't really matter. So I think next turn they'll be able to do an attack here against this city, and then I'm not sure, it depends on what France does, but there might be something happening down here in the south. But for this impulse, just a little bit more movement right now. All right, and I think where Germany and Italy were a little bit more reserved this impulse, I think Japan's going to be aggressive. I'm going to use HQ support, or offensive points with this HQ here. So it's a land action, so his reorg value here is 2. So he'll get to affect 4 units. And I don't have to declare them right now, but they're going to be the 2 here and the 2 here. So that'll cost me 9 offensive points to do, 5 plus 2 times 2. So I've already done the movement, and these 2 units and these 2 units are going to attack these 2. And then these 2 here and these 2 here are going to attack this hex here. And here's a factory. So the idea here is that it would deny China the factory here, and then this is obviously the HQ. This is probably the most defended location that at least the nationalist Chinese army has right here. So if Japan is able to do this, and the odds are not really completely with them here, but if they're able to do this, this is the push through that they're looking for. If they're not able to do it, this might signal the end of their push into southern China. So, yeah, having said that, I'll go ahead and do it. Both of these HQs are going to do HQ, I think I said HQ support before, but they're doing the HQ benefit. Japan's doing the HQ benefits on the land action, and they're both doing HQ support. And China is located in a mountain there, so their combat strength in this defense is doubled, and it'll be on the assault table. So the combat modifier for, we'll do the top one here, we'll do this one here. The combat modifier for that is 5.3. So here's the fractional odds. Got a 4, so it'll be plus 5. And here we go. Got a 10, and then plus the 5 is 15. Okay, so that's 2 and 1. Not so good for Japan. I think they're going to take this unit here and this one here. And then China will take not the HQ. And these will be flipped over. So I don't know. Japan lost more. That feels like a pretty big loss for Japan. But Japan's also able to replace those troops a lot more easily than China is. So while Japan's not going to get to move forward into this hex, and the HQ is still there, that has still been weakened. And if Japan wanted to, they could replace those troops. They actually have 2 right now in Kyoto. That could potentially come over this, not this impulse, but this turn, if I wanted to do that. And then we'll move on to the other one here. So with the factory and the flipped over unit, the combat modifier in that hex is 6.1. So roll for the fractional. Oh, I got a 1. So that's going to be plus 7. So 11. 11 plus 7 is 18. And so that's nothing and 1. So China will lose this one here. And then because the defender lost more than the attacker, they will flip over the defender. Okay, so that wasn't too bad. A lot of Japan's units now are flipped. So they're not going to have a whole lot they can do the rest of this turn. But they did weaken China. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that was worth it or not. I actually think that went a little better for Japan than it probably should have. We'll see. I'm not sure. I still think I'm giving myself, as the Japan player here, a bit of a timer. I think if things don't really come together for them in the next turn, maybe by the end of what is it now, May, June. So by the end of July, August, maybe into September, October, I really think it's going to be time to focus on the Pacific. And I think I say that every time I play the Japan impulse here, but I think the idea that I'm trying to go with them is to be aggressive here, very aggressive right now, but then basically have a timer where at some point I need to figure out what that point is, but at some point they need to stop and they need to refocus into the Pacific. Alright, I've officially spent long enough trying to figure out what to do with the Allies this impulse, so I just ended up making some decisions and just going to stick with it and see how it goes. Also, I'm going to try a little bit of a different camera angle here in China. I know the glare from the light here is kind of bad in the southern part, so just trying something different. So China, so they did a few things. They moved, the HQ that was here moved here, and the units here moved here. And I think what China saw last time is that even though it was pretty well defended here in this mountain, having 3 units able to, or 3 hexes able to attack it is dangerous. So I think backing up, it's across a river from here, it's in a mountain, and then this particular hex here does have the 2 lakes on it, but all it would take is like one snowy day, or one snowy impulse to possibly be in a pretty bad spot there. And also, at the moment, Japan might have trouble keeping anything here in supply. So I think the thing I'm going to do here is just move back into the mountains with these 2 units, and do kind of the same thing I did with France a turn or 2 ago, and try to make as straight and short of a line as possible to minimize the number of hexes that can be attacked on 3 sides or more. I keep thinking I'm going to move them out of this hex down, but this hex has been very difficult for Japan to get through. So I think the pattern here, I think the lineup I've got here will prove to be pretty tough for Japan to push through at this point. Also, China does have 1 unit coming out next turn, and I think they'll probably end up going here, so they'll fortify that hex as well. Still not quite sure what to do with America yet, so they didn't do anything this turn. I'm kind of hoping it becomes apparent what I should be doing with them. They've got a lot of ships, but there's really not a whole lot they can do with them. They haven't done any of the actions where they can defend the convoys in the Atlantic, so still trying to figure out what to do with them. And I really don't know what to do with the Commonwealth at the moment either. So I moved a few transports around. I had one in Singapore. I moved over towards New Zealand. I had one in Malta that I moved around to Nigeria just to bring some of the territorial troops over towards hotspots around the world. I realized I had misinterpreted the territorial and minor country rule where you have to have... I thought it read that you had to keep at least half the units, both land and air, inside the country for minor and territorial units. But you can't leave unless half or more are currently in the country. So for the Nigerian territorial unit, for example, there's just one of them. And I assumed that they had to stay there because if I had left Nigeria, that would mean more than half are outside of the country. But because half of them right now are in the country, they can leave. So, long story short, I moved a transport over there. It's a pretty good unit, so I'm thinking about moving that unit up either into United Kingdom or somewhere else in Europe as needed. So over here, I decided to leave that Commonwealth stack there. They could have moved over to this factory here and been able to defend there, but I think they're actually in an interesting spot right now. Germany isn't... They could probably attack here if they wanted to, but if I left, Germany would be able to wrap around and really attack this French hex. So I think by staying there right now with those British troops, they're really protecting the French line. Eventually, I want to get them out of Europe, and Germany just doesn't really seem all that eager to attack that part of the line right now. They've got less power up here, but they'd be able to consolidate and move to the west if they were not there. So I think I'm going to leave them there. And then for France, I moved things around. It's a little off camera, but from the Maginot line, I moved them. There's still at least 1 unit in each Maginot Line hex, but they've moved up and over, and they're filling in the holes here. So yeah, France is leaving the Maginot Line a little bit less defended, but I think the fort and the river along that border will still continue to hold, especially since Germany doesn't have as many troops there. And just trying to defend as well as I can here. France doesn't really think that they're... so the last turn, Germany did pretty well, and France isn't really liking their chances here at this point. I could attack here with these hexes, and I thought about it for a while. But here's the thing. France would have about a 68% chance of removing one of the German units, and about 25% at removing both. And on the French side, they only have about a 13% chance of not taking any losses, about 40% that they would take 2 or more losses, and only about a 5% chance that they would remain flipped face side up. So is it a battle that they could win? Yes, it is a battle they could win. Is it something that if they were to lose, it would open the lineup significantly for Germany? Yes, it is. A low roll there would flip their units face down. It could see several of them destroyed. And really, there's not a whole lot to gain. Yeah, it would inconvenience the Germans, and they would lose 2 of their units there. But the thing that right now that France has going for it is that they have a lot of units currently in the production circle to come out next turn, because a lot of them have had... a lot of the combat results have been breakthrough this turn. So they know that Germany is eager to push forward as fast as possible this turn. And they're thinking in order to do that offensive points might have to be used. So I think what France and really collectively the Allies are going for is that if they can force Germany to use offensive points, they'd rather them use them now, here, where they might be a little bit impatient, as opposed to later, possibly with like the Soviet, against the Soviet Union. So I don't think I'm going to attack here because the risk of failure is too great, or the consequence of failure is too great, I should say. And by just sitting there bolstering their defenses, it might force Germany to use offensive points that the Allies would rather them use now than later. The other thing I did with France, they had a fighter plane here. That fighter plane moved south just to be more of an inconvenience to Italy. Against Germany, it's a good fighter, but Germany's got so many fighters up there. I don't know that it's really going to cause a whole lot of difference to the fights up there. But it might prove to be huge down here, where Germany's really just got this one really good bomber and one fighter. This fighter might actually be able to make quite a difference in this battle down here. And then lastly, for the Allies, the Soviet Union is going to attack here. So the reserve unit did come out for Iran, and it's hard to see here, it's a 3-2. It is face down because it's a reserve unit. Soviet Union will commit both of these bombers, and they have the 2 Siberian units here. And so taking the mountains into account and the flipped over unit, the modifier here is 7.3. So roll dice for the fractional. 6. Nope. So it's plus 7. Oh, and Soviet Union rolls a 6. So 6 plus 7 is 13. And 13 is absolutely nothing happens. So really the only thing that does happen here is the Soviet Union flips their units over. The bombers will return, flipped over. Yeah, so this will probably have to wait until next turn to be resolved. Or at least try again. Okay, Axis turn. Axis impulse. And weather check. Roll 3. So some weather in the monsoon regions and Arctic, but fair weather in everywhere else. Okay, so I've moved Germany into position here. They have at least another impulse this turn, so I don't think they're quite yet ready to move forward with using offensive points. There are 2 points along the French defense here with only 1 unit, right here and here. And so I think the goal is going to be for Germany here to attack into that hex, and from these 2 into this one, just to try to remove them and force the French then to either fill the line or leave the gap next turn. So we'll do the combat here. We've got 2 8-6 tanks. or 8.6 armor, and I'm also using this fighter bomber here with half the range. He came from here, so he's got enough range because he's a fighter flying as a bomber. Adding 3 to that against a 5.2, and so all of that is 9.6 for the combat modifier. So here's the fractional. Get a 2, so it goes up to 10. And a roll, and I should mention this is on the blitz table. So roll 9 plus the 10 is 19. Ooh, so not quite what Germany wanted to see. They're going to lose one of their units. I guess they'll take the 8.5. The unit does get to stay face up, but this unit here for France had breakthrough, or it wasn't destroyed, but breakthrough. So that'll be put onto the production track. So on one hand, it was okay for Germany because it did open up this hole that they were hoping to, but they really didn't want to lose that armor. That's kind of a big loss. All right, and moving to this combat here, I've got a 6 and a 7 and a 5 and a 6. So I do have a mech unit, and there's no mech or armor here, so it'll be another blitz. And I did include the bonus for having the armor units here at that battle. That added +1 each to that battle there. So all of that together here is plus 8.4. So the fractional is a 5, so nope. So plus 8, and I rolled an 18. That wasn't 8, 18. So that's off the chart. So everybody stays face up. This unit is actually destroyed, and I can advance in here if I want. Yeah, so what I'm trying to determine here is if the units here should move into here. This garrison is unlikely to move that way if I were to do that, because it would leave this open. None of these are probably going to move along the Maginot, because I do have troops here for Germany that could move in. The thing I'm most concerned about is this stack here moving here, and this stack here filling in. There would be a pretty large number of troops here that could attack this unit then, or the hex here. But I don't know if France would want to move this way and open up the line like that. I don't know if that'd be to their advantage to try to take out these two units. I guess it's a 5-3 and a 6-4. So I don't know. Would France really value leaving the line to go attack them? I don't know the answer to that. So that's what I'm trying to determine. Yeah, so I think I'm going to. This may be the wrong decision. We'll see. So this plane will get overrun. This plane stays there. And these two are moving forward. Germany has made it into the line here. It's possible that they could get attacked, but the ultimate reason why I ended up deciding to do this is because it might take a little bit of pressure off of this tank up here. As it stands right now, these French units could maybe attack this, and it's still possible. I don't know if they will. It's only about 2-to-1 odds, and the risk of flipping face down at the end of that's pretty big for them, even if they were to destroy that. But now with these units here, it seems like I might have bought this tank a little bit more breathing room, which I think is probably the more valuable unit than the 2 infantry. So we'll see. I'm just going to make the decision, and we'll see how it ends up. Down here in Italy, had these units move closer to the French port here. France did, last turn, I didn't point it out, but last turn did have this militia unit train in from the west coast over here. So there are 2 units there, so I think Italy is planning on trying to move this stack over to get more units involved in that attack. And then we're surrounding the city here in Lyon. And then Italy is surrounding the city here, but France moved this fighter down here, so it's going to be a little tougher because I'm not going to want to risk this bomber now in that combat. So we'll see how that ends up turning out. Italy does have a lot of units here. Yeah, I'm not sure. They really want this factory here. It's Red Factory. If nothing else, to deny it from France next turn. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. I'm not going to do the combat right now because another option that might happen, these 2 units here might move that way next turn. These might move here and these might move up here just to add even more combat strength to that battle. I'm not sure. I'm not quite ready to attack here yet with Italy. It's about 2-to-1 odds, but there's also 2 factories there, so it would only, I think, be a +2 modifier on that combat, which is not very high. It actually might be something to use the HQ support for here. I think what'll end up happening probably is next impulse, I'll probably move these here, attack here with the bomber, see how that goes, and then if this stack ends up remaining face up, they might go help that battle. Otherwise, these might do the combat on their own. I'm not sure yet. We'll have to see. And the other thing Italy did here was move this troop from Ethiopia into French Somaliland. They're just going to take that port there. And then with Japan right now, I'm really not sure what to do with them for the rest of the turn, at least, because everything they have in China right now is flipped face down. So not much they can do there. So what I did do is move 2 transports over here to the Sea of Japan, and I boarded these 2 units from Kyoto. And then I also moved the 2 carrier groups I had out in the Pacific Ocean. I moved them over here to China. I think they'll be of more use in the near future in the South China Sea area. They did a naval action. So with that, moving to the Allies. Okay, so for the Allied turn, the Allied impulse here, I'm struggling a lot with France on how to defend right now. Again, there's enough force here that they could probably attack either here or here. And possibly cause some damage, but the chances of them losing their troops and being flipped face down is really probably too high to make that risk. I just don't think it's worth it. I think they want to just delay. I think the idea is that they know that they're not going to actually be able to really stop the German advance at this point, and I think in order to delay it, I think the idea is to stay face up and just hold wherever they can. And I didn't move here down to here because zone of control, this troop here will move pretty slowly around, and I think they'll be better able to defend if there's a combat strength of 8 here instead of splitting it up into 5 and 3. I think this will just be a better idea. The Commonwealth, I think I'm misplaying them too. I say that every turn, I think, at this point, but I think I'm misplaying them a bit. So I did move a troop from Plymouth. He's on his way around Africa over into Asia. But that's all I did with them. I'm not really sure what else to do. They're not at war with Italy right now, so there's not a whole lot they can do in the Mediterranean. But at the moment, there's not a whole lot else they can do. I'm leaving these here, I think, at least one more turn. They're providing a nice roadblock for Germany to have to either attack or go around. And Germany doesn't really have a whole lot of force or desire to attack this particular hex right now. I think we'll probably see them leave next impulse. But yeah, I don't know what else to do with the Commonwealth at the moment. Over in Asia, they're in India, they're defending over there pretty well. The US didn't do anything. Soviet Union just moved some troops over towards the west, towards Germany. And China did not do anything either. I think they're in the position they currently want to be in. So not a whole lot going on this Allied turn, which makes me think it was probably misplayed a bit. I think they're in full defense mode right now until they start getting more units produced and out onto the board. And with that, move into the Axis impulse. Rolling for weather. 7. And it has a modifier of 1 on it from the previous one, so we're up to 8. Fair weather everywhere. Alright, so first up, I'll do Italy, move some troops in here, surrounding the port. I also moved, it's a little off camera, but I moved some battleships out here into the western Mediterranean. I can use up to 5 of the ships. I think there are other ships than just battleships. There's cruisers there too. But I've got 5 units attacking, so it means I can use 5 ships for bombardment. And the 5 that I'm using have a combined shore bombardment of 11. So all of that added up here, we've got a factory, but we also have 1 face-down unit. I'm not using HQ support. I'm hoping to stay face up. So all of that together is a modifier of 10.1. So here's the fractional odds. 7. Nope. So plus 10 to 8 is 18. So what ends up happening is that France loses 1 unit. They'll take this one, but not the other one. It will flip face down, though, because they lost more. Italy doesn't lose anything, but everything from Italy is flip face over. So everything for Italy is flipped face down. That'll probably about end Italy's advance into France this turn. I don't know, they may be able to do something up here, but it's a little disappointing for them. They were hoping to move in, take this port, and keep moving. All right, I went ahead and moved Germany, and I think this is going to be their big push here, this impulse. I'm going to use the rest of their offensive points, which is quite a few of them, 13. And I'm going to give HQ benefits to this HQ here, so he can increase the attack power of 8 different units, since he's got reorg of 4. And the range of that is 4 because his reorg is 4, and the range is just hexes. It doesn't matter for zone of control, any of that. So anything all the way out to 1, 2, 3, 4, even out all the way out to here can get it. So the ones that are getting it, the HQ benefits this turn are both of these units, the 7 underneath there, both of these units, and the 6 underneath here. And so the way I'm doing the attacks, I'm going to be attacking here. For both of these are attacking this face-down armor. That's going to be a blitz. Everything in this hex and this hex are attacking here. That'll be an assault because I don't have any armor or mechanized units there. Everything in this hex and the 7 are attacking here, and that will be a blitz because I have a mechanized troop somewhere in here. Yeah, that 7's a mechanized troop, and France doesn't have any. And then the 4, the 5, the 5, and the 6 are attacking here along with the plane. And this is a 4-1 garrison currently in a factory with a resource. So I'll go ahead and roll for each of them here. I've already done the math on all of them. So the top one, we'll start with that one. The combat modifier on this one is 12.5. That's 30, which is their combat strength doubled, versus 7 for the defender. And it's plus 4 to the roll because 2 for the face-down unit and then 1 each because it's a blitz and I've got armor there. So 12.5, get a 1 on the fractional, so it's plus 13. Let's see if I can roll this on camera. Okay, I get an 11. So 11 plus 13 is 24. On the blitz table, that is this unit here destroyed. Everybody stays face up, and I can move forward. So I will go ahead and do that. So I'm going to move here, and then on a breakthrough, I'll confirm I can do this, but I think this unit here is going to move on into that factory. Let me verify I can do that. Yeah, so from my reading of the breakthrough rules, that looks legitimate. So I'm here, I've taken over that factory as Germany, and then I'm going to leave the HQ here so that there's a supply path going this way. And you know, there could be a danger here from the British troops, but it's tough because I kind of know what the British troops are going to do. But I think regardless, I think the British troops are out of here next turn. I don't think they're sticking around, so I don't know. It's tricky. It's tricky playing this by myself because I don't know if Germany really should be leaving this open. I don't know if they should be spreading themselves out there. Commonwealth could move in here, take that factory and the capital. Now there's another factory over here, so you know, I don't think they're going to be liberating Belgium like by surprise or anything like that. I think they're going to probably take these units home just to keep them safe. So yeah, they could continue to cause a bit of a problem for Germany here, but I just don't think it's worth it. It seems unnecessary. It's hard to know though. It's hard to know if I'm just kind of thinking ahead as the Commonwealth player, leaving Belgium or not, but it is what it is. I'm playing by myself. That's one of the downfalls of playing this game solo, I suppose. So I'm going to go here, and we'll just keep going. So the next combat is here. These units all going into here. Its odds are 45 to 10, minus 1 because France is going to use HQ support there. So this will be an assault, and it's plus 8.0 on the combat table. Roll a 16. So 16 plus 8 is 24. That's off the chart. So both of these units are destroyed. Everybody stays face up. And I have to figure out who I'm advancing in. So I think I'll move in the HQ and the 7-2 militia here. Alright, next one is the 7 here and these 2 units attacking into this hex. That gives me a combat modifier of 8.7, or dice roll modifier, I should say, of 8.7. It's including the plus 1 for the blitzing unit, and this is a blitz. So for the fractional, roll a 1, so that will move up to plus 9. Roll a 10. Okay, so 19 on the blitz table is breakthrough. So that means these 2 units are shattered, so they will go to the production circle. Germany loses 1 unit, so I think they will lose the... I think they'll lose the 5-3. And then half of the remaining units get to stay face up. So I think I'll do this. I'll flip this over for the one that has to flip face over, but it'll be reorged by the HQ that's using HQ supply at the end of the turn, so I'm not too concerned about that. And then the last one is here. There's a factory. I have a plane. Overall, this comes out to plus 7.8, and the hex sides here only mean that only a third of their combat factors here get taken into account. I made a goof. This unit here was not part of that last combat. So these 2 will move forward here. I'll just keep that flipped over. That's fine. So that's how that ended there. The unit that I took as a casualty, that was fine to take. But I had accidentally moved this unit forward. This one was not part of that combat. I didn't count it as part of the numbers, but I just accidentally moved it. So that should be there. Most of the combat factor against this hex here is really coming from the doubled strength of this unit. And these are kind of adding a little bit in with the plane. So it's an assault. It's plus 7.8. Roll a 6, so that goes to plus 8. Roll a 10, so that's 18. So 18 is 1 loss for the defender and no losses for the attacker. Go ahead and move this plane. So the defender is lost. None of the attackers are lost, but I do move in. So I'm going to move in with the 5-4, and I'll move in with the 6-3, and they'll all flip over. And Germany does control this particular hex here. And another thing that I forgot to mention at the beginning of this, I moved all of the planes that were face down off of the map here and onto a little overlay I've got just to get them out of the way. They were taking up a lot of room. So I actually need to make sure I can put that there because there were planes there. Yeah, so I'll just go ahead and put them here because there were no planes there. Like I said, I've got the planes kind of off map here, but I'm looking at and seeing where they are. So I need to make sure I'm respecting the stacking limits. So I'll put this plane back here. So I think overall that was quite successful for Germany. They've got they really pushed in here this turn. France, the line doesn't really exist anymore. And should there be another impulse this turn, Germany is going to have enough units to come over here and probably attack Paris as well. So I'll do a little bit of cleanup here. I'll probably bring the planes back and we'll go from there. Yeah, okay, so during the reorg part of the phase here, any land unit that I reorg from this HQ only cost half of their normal, and right now their normal is 1 because it's a land action. So any one that I flip over is half a point of reorg, and like I have a range of 4 motorized movement points. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I can reorganize this one here, so that's half a point of reorg. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so not out to here. I can't go out to here. So there's actually no other land units in range that I can flip over with that because I can't flip over HQ units at this phase. So I'll just spend, he's got 3.5. So I've got a bomber unit here. I'll just flip over with the rest of the reorg points. All right, and Japan did not do a whole lot. They just moved this troop here that was on a transport up by Japan. And they also moved this militia unit over here. All right, on a 1 the turn ends, or otherwise we move on to allies. Wow, I rolled a 1. Well, I was definitely not expecting that to happen. I was thinking the Allies and the Axis would both have another turn. That's going to change a lot because there are a lot of French units coming out onto the board from all the breakthrough that happened last turn. This might be really interesting next turn for the French-German war. So with that said, the Axis had both the first and the last turn of both the first and last impulse of the turn. So I moved the initiative marker 1 towards the Allies. It's now at 0. And I will go through the rest of the end of turn stuff. So partisans, 10. Norway, Austria, Finland, France, Yugoslavia, Canada, Africa, USA, USSR. Okay, so the 2 countries there that we need to check for are France and then the continent of Africa. So France, because Germany does control hexes in it, you would roll for it, except the rule for putting out a partisan, so it must go into an enemy-controlled hex in its country that is not in an enemy zone of control. There are no such hexes right now in France. Everything Germany controls, there is a German unit in, except for one hex, but it is in the zone of control of several German troops. So I'm not going to roll for France because I don't think anything can happen there. Oh, you know what? I'm looking at it. It still doesn't matter. Italy's also there too, but everything is either has an Italian troop on it or is in zone of control of an Italian unit. So nothing there. For Africa, Germany gets to pick. The only countries that I think could have anything happen to them based on... It needs to be a minor country, and it needs to be in Africa. So the only ones that could possibly even get partisans after a modified dice roll right now is Algeria and Belgian Congo, and both of them would require a 1 to get a partisan. So I think Germany will just pick Belgian Congo. So on a 1, no, it's a 5. So nothing happens there. So nothing happens with partisans. And I just realized that was off camera. So Belgian Congo here, just to show. There is a troop here, and it's a partisan value of 2. So 2 minus the 1 is the 1 that was required. Okay, so I've gone through the U.S. entry action and the entry token on the border with countries that have pacts with each other. I've done that. The U.S. did choose the action to have China build aircraft. So I rolled, and nothing moved over to the tension pool for that. So I moved on to production. So right now, production is, so this is build points. Japan's at 16, Germany's at 17, Italy's at 5, USA is at 10, China's at 5, France is at 3, Soviet Union's at 15, and the Commonwealth is at 15. That does take into account any like trade deals that any of them might have. France had 5 build points extra from the units lost on home soil, the land units lost on home soil, and China had 2. So for the Allies, I think with all of the extra build points France has right now and the number of troops coming out this coming turn from Breakthrough last turn, as well as the impending German wave through northern France, France is going to try to just get as many territorial units out there as possible. Don't know if that's the right call or not, but it seems reasonable. Everything else has build times that are longer than I think France is probably going to be able to stand as Germany moves through. The Commonwealth is building some more planes and amphibious transport, and picked a militia randomly, so picked one for India. China's building 2 planes with their build points. Their infantry situation right now is, I think, actually pretty good. So getting some planes will help defense. Soviet Union's building some land troops. And for the U.S., I decided to go ahead and build the oil. Use the stored build point they had from before to build it. Don't know if that's the right call, but it might be helpful in the future. Realized I did 2 things incorrectly in previous turns. 1, the U.S. is not allowed to build amphibious transports until a certain U.S. entry action has been chosen, and I've got like 3 of them in the production circle right now. So I think what I'll do is I'll just leave them there, but I'm not going to build them out of the construction pool until the appropriate amount of time has passed after that entry action has been chosen. So just a mistake, something to learn from for the future. And also, militia are not supposed to be in force pools until you're not neutral, until you're an active country. And I built militia with the Soviet Union, I think, last turn. So I'm just going to leave them. They really shouldn't be there, but just a note. Militia don't get added to the force pool until you become an active country. Okay, and then for the Axis, from the construction pool, I'm building some of Japan's carriers and building infantry that are going to start to populate the islands in the Pacific. Italy is going to build this paratrooper. I don't know. I don't know what you do with 5 build points right now, but they have a transport plane with nobody to transport, or at least nobody to paradrop. So I figured, build this, and maybe that'll come in handy as they try to attack northern Africa or even possibly Spain. And then Germany's building some infantry and a mechanized unit, another plane. And they're building an amphibious transport, just maybe for the eventual either invasion of Norway, it might help them in the invasion of Spain that they're planning, or even possibly a sea lion. So it's been about a day since I filmed that last clip, and since then I realized I made a few mistakes in the last video clip, which is ironic because it was a video clip partially explaining mistakes I had made previously. But anyway, one of the territorials I picked for France was Libya, which is not possible as France does not control Libya. So I drew again, and I got Morocco. The problem is I don't really have a force pool set up for territorials. I just leave them in a bag for each country. So like I've got a bag for French territorials, and I just pull them out when I need them randomly. And I just if it's one that I can't play, if it's one that shouldn't be in the force pool, I just don't use it. But somehow I didn't catch that one. The other thing not really a rules issue, but one of the planes I had picked for China had a date of 1937 on the back, and it's currently 1940. And I either forgot or didn't realize that. So if a unit is 4 years or more older than the current date, so right now it's 1940. So if it's 1936 or older, or like further back in time, it can be removed from the force pool. But if a country is active, it's actually only 3 years. So the one plane I picked, I would have removed from the force pool. So I drew again. I had done Lend-Lease with the 2 American planes, so I ended up pulling this one here instead. So if you see a difference, that's why that change happened. All right. So that brings us to the end of the turn, a lot earlier than I expected it to. It's going to be really interesting to see next turn how this front here plays out, because France will be able to bring in units here, another one to Paris, there's another city over here. Germany did end up taking the factory here, and then there's another factory here, which Germany now is very glad they did that, because those are 2 cities where reinforcements won't be able to come in. But France is going to have units here, 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 and then they'll have others in the more interior of France that might be able to move pretty quickly if Germany doesn't move quickly themselves. So it's going to be a bit of a race to Paris. The plan had been for Italy to move in and take the south of France, and then for Germany to take the north of France, and basically along the Vichy line here, with Italy taking south of it and Germany taking north of it. Just because I thought it'd be interesting and different. But with all of these troops coming out next turn, I'm thinking that's probably not going to happen. The other reason I'm thinking it is that there aren't really a whole lot of resources and factories for Italy to use here anyway. So I think what's probably going to end up happening is that Germany will eventually take Paris, and then at the end of the turn they'll make Vichy France, and then immediately dissolve it starting the next turn. And then I think Germany's just going to do a bit of a trade deal with Italy on a turn-by-turn basis to give them a few resources. I really want Italy to play, something of a role in the Mediterranean here, and right now they just don't have the resources to do that. So that's the idea. And then as soon as France is conquered here, I think Italy and Germany are going to move to Spain as quickly as possible. I think it'll be interesting to see what they can do down there, and it'll be a little ahistorical, so kind of deviate from the path of history here. Other things Germany probably needs to, wants to, should do is take Denmark, take Norway. That'll be something, and it seems like we might be setting ourselves up here for a sea lion. I've actually been giving a little bit of consideration to, it probably won't happen, but the thought has crossed my mind to not attack the Soviet Union and instead build a wall over there. That is probably not a smart play. It seems like the Soviet Union might be able to capitalize on that, and eventually they should have numerical superiority towards the end of the game, so that may not work. But I'm wondering if Germany wasn't as aggressive on the east, if they were able to group their forces and make a wall of a defensive wall, and Germany and Italy take basically the Mediterranean. They might be able to hold it better than what happened in real life with Germany advancing into the Soviet Union and then the Soviet Union pushing them back. I don't know. I don't know, because it feels like Germany moving through the Soviet Union will be a lot of blitzes, which will mean for a lot of breakthroughs, which means not a whole lot of units being destroyed. Now, this is just me speculating. Again, I've never played this before, as I'm sure is painfully obvious by now. It's just something I'm thinking of. I don't know that that's what's going to happen, but I'm wondering if it'll be easier for Germany to hold the territory that they have France, Germany, Poland, and then maybe working over into like the Balkans. I'm not sure. But if it might be easier for them to hold that if they're not focused on a land war in the Soviet Union. But something that they might want to do, just to be interesting in terms of this game, is to do Sea Lion, which is to try to invade the Commonwealth. It's tough, right? Because me, as the Commonwealth player, now knows that Germany is thinking about that. So trying to balance how to best defend against that without really knowing that that's Germany's plan is going to be difficult, but we'll see. A few other points that I have thought of here is that in the game, if you were playing with more than one person, if Germany and Italy were being played by different people, yes, they're on the same team, but one of them will be a winner. It's based off of victory points. So Italy down here might still want to take southern France. I think there's at least one victory point down there. But Germany might want to race to Paris to do Vichy, right? Like Germany probably wants Vichy France to happen, whereas Italy would rather it not. Now, Italy has not been able to push as far into France as I thought they might be able to at this point. So it may not really matter. I think Germany is going to get to Paris before Italy can do much more down there. But something that as somebody who's just playing all the players here, on one hand I'm playing the Axis, and on the other hand I'm playing the Allies. But if this were like a 6-player game, Germany and Italy, while on the same team, they each are also looking out for themselves. The other difficulty that I've been trying to work through here is it sort of feels like as the attacker that's who I'm playing as, whereas the defender is sort of like an NPC that I'm controlling. So right now, it sort of feels like I'm driving the Axis, and it seems likely that later in the game, in the later years, I'll be feeling like I'm driving the Allies along, since they'll be the ones doing the attacking. So I've been finding it a little challenging to really break apart the two roles, right? Like I'm playing both the Allies and the Axis, and I'm playing for the long-term success of the Allies and the long-term success of the Axis. So just trying to manage playing as both sides here has proven to be challenging, not impossible. It's just been a little challenging. So I really have to try to separate myself from like playing as the attacker here, because the attacker has more things going on here. Like what France has really just been sitting there defending, which I think is what they're supposed to do. They're trying to defend as best as possible. But in terms of gameplay, Germany's mechanic of advancing is interesting. And later in the game, I have a feeling that the U.S. and the Commonwealth making landings in France and U.S. island hopping in the Pacific, that's probably going to be the interesting thing. So trying to strike the balance of playing as the aggressor and the defender and playing them both equally and fairly has been a little bit trickier than I initially thought it might be. And then over here in Asia, Japan went from like covering lots of ground, especially in the south, very quickly at the beginning of the game. And they are really not moving much further right now. I keep mentioning the timer I'm sort of giving them of like they only have so many turns to make progress in China before they need to turn their attention out to the Pacific. I think I'll give it at least one more turn here while the weather is good. And I think this area might be somewhere that Japan is going to want to focus on. They would really like to try to cut off the Burma Road from at least that one factory. The other advantage of Germany declaring Vichy France, if that's what happens, is Japan's going to try to ally in French Indochina if that turns to Vichy, which could be certainly a benefit for Japan to take that, and then that would give them another way into Burma and then this part of China as well. All right, so with that, thanks for watching, and next we'll start the July-August turn. Thanks.